The funny thing about the 2016 election cycle is that 99% of Americans don't understand what's on the line. The Republican Party is being destroyed from the inside by the billionaire class. In other countries, this would be considered a coup d'etat. In America, the corrupt billionaire class has stolen the identity of the true conservative and mixed it with the stolen identity of the Tea Party movement to create the liberal-minded Republicans we see today. This billionaire class coup is literally playing out in real time right before our eyes. Not surprisingly, the characters that have overthrown other governments around the world are heavily involved in the 2016 election cycle. It's no secret that George Soros is friends with both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. A little bit of research will reveal that their ties with each other run very deep. If Soros, who is responsible for overthrowing many governments, is friends with both the Clinton family and the Trump family, should we assume that they've never collectively spoken on the 2016 elections? Soros has a fatherly love for Trump all the way to the point of their family spending Christmas Eve together. The same can be said for Clinton, as Soros continues to give massive amounts of money to Clinton's primary run. The possibility of a coup happening in America is not only very real, it is also very imminent. The billionaire class has combined their powers through the media to pull off the greatest media operation ever known to man. Over $2 billion in free advertisement was given to Donald Trump to completely overshadow his opponents. No other Republican received nearly as much free advertisement as the self-proclaimed billionaire. The mainstream media has made an unprecedented move by actively participating in the tearing down of politicians while not holding others accountable for their words.
Refuses to acknowledge.
What do you say to Caitlyn Jenner? She actually took Trump up on his offer, and she went and used the bathroom in Trump Tower and then tweeted about it, and she said, by the way, Ted, referring to you, nobody got molested. What do you say to Caitlyn Jenner?
What I say is very simple. If you pass a law, as Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump and Barack Obama want, that says any adult man can go into a girl's restroom if he feels like a woman at that minute. Listen, the real danger is not people who are transgendered, it's people who are predators. People who are predators who use that law as an excuse to go target our kids. And that is a real dangerous. I've spent a lot of years in law enforcement dealing with cases of some of the very worst child molesters, people who do horrible things to kids. And the reason Donald Trump's comment is so revealing, he said a few months ago, he said, I can be the most politically correct person on earth. You know, what his lobbyist campaign manager said last week is that everything Donald is saying, he's playing a role, this is all a stage, he's faking it. And he's showing, this is political correct nonsense. People want someone who tells the truth. Donald is playing a role and pretending to be something he's not. I've been the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow, and I speak the truth. Donald, there's a reason Donald Trump has given 7 campaign contributions to Hillary Clinton, including 2 to her presidential campaign.
Let me try to...
He is a big government New York liberal.
You have spent...
And he's pretending to be something else.
You've spent this entire interview trying to eviscerate Donald Trump. If he's the nominee, I take it you can't support him anymore, can you?
I believe if the Republican Party nominates Donald Trump, we will lose to Hillary, because when we offer Democrat light, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton on the ballot, they support the same social policy, they support the same economic policy. In fact, both Donald and Hillary support allowing illegal immigrants to become U.S. citizens. Now, Donald says he'll fly them back to their country first.
But are you going to support him?
We will lose.
I understand what you believe in the Republican Party. Can you support him? Can you tell your delegates,
Chuck,
lay down your arms and support Donald Trump? Well, you may not.
Chuck,
you realize that.
I recognize that many in the media would love for me to surrender to Donald Trump.
It's not about the media,
number one, that Hillary
Senator,
wins,
it's about the
number
numbers. It's about the numbers. He may win. Republican voters are the ones rejecting you. This is not a media conspiracy, Senator.
Well, actually, with all due respect, the media has given $2 billion of free advertising to Donald. Let me ask you a question, for example. How much money did the networks make on every one of the Republican debates?
I have no idea, because we didn't have a Republican debate.
But you know what's interesting, Chuck? It's been now 49 days since we've had a Republican debate. The Democrats have had a debate. Hillary Clinton, Bernie Sanders, they've been willing to debate. Donald can't answer questions about his foreign policy. He can't answer questions about how you bring jobs back to this country.
But why can't you answer the question of whether you can support Donald Trump or not? You can't answer that question. Why won't you answer that question straightforward, black and white?
Chuck, let me finish this point I'm making. Even though the media stands to make millions of dollars off of a debate, you hear radio silence from the media about no debates. They're giving up millions of dollars, and the reason is your network's executives are partisan Democrats. Why doesn't every TV station
You don't get to just say that. Wait a minute. You don't get to just say that. It's just not true, but go ahead. You just you're broad brushing here, and this is exactly what people hate about the media and politics, broad brushes, right?
Listen, the simple reality is the media almost entirely are liberal partisan Democrats. That is the reality of it. The media created this Trump phenomenon, and then they don't hold him accountable. Now, I'm sure the media planned to do so if he's the nominee. In the general election, suddenly you're going to hear every day about Donald Trump's tax returns. When was the last time you talked about his tax returns? You know, we ought to have a debate. There are real differences. Donald won't debate and the media won't hold him accountable. I think the people of Indiana deserve
Can you
a
answer the question
about
whether you're going to support
in Indiana?
Are you going to support Donald Trump if he's the nominee?
I am going to beat Donald Trump. We are headed to a contested convention, and we're going to win, and I'm not willing to concede this country. Listen, this is my kid's future, Chuck. It's not simply a game.
Nobody's saying it's a game, sir.
If we lose this, we lose our country. We lose the Supreme Court for a generation. Religious liberty is taken away. The Second Amendment is taken away. Our kids are bankrupted. We are at the edge of a cliff. And I'll tell you, the people of Indiana, they really are in a position. The country is depending on them to pull us back from this cliff. Because there comes a point where the debt is too great, where we have bankrupted our country too far, where radical Islamic terrorism and our enemies have grown too strong, and you can't turn back. We're not there yet, but we are close. And the reason Carly and I are campaigning and working to earn support is we want to save this country. It's not about some reality TV star who it's all about him. It is about the future of the country and our freedoms. That's what I'm campaigning
I know, you still didn't answer the question about supporting him. Don't you think it's important to take a stand? You just said it's a time for choosing. If it's a time for choosing, say it. For him or against him as the nominee. It's a time for choosing, is it not?
Chuck, you're welcome to lobby for support for Trump as much as possible. We are going to beat Trump because Trump's winning the nomination loses the country.
Don't you think Republican voters...
And I am not willing to give up on America.
I'm
not willing to give up on America.
But if you care this much about it, don't you think you saying, I can't support him if he's the nominee, doesn't light a fire and send a sense of urgency to the Republican Party?
Chuck, what I'm saying is very, very simple. If you believe in free market principles, if you want to reduce the taxes and regulations on small businesses, if you want to bring jobs back to America, you know, the amazing thing about the three-card monte game being played by Donald Trump is he is laughing at his supporters. He's mocking his supporters because he's lying to them. You know, he tries to pretend he is a supporter of the working man and woman. He's the only person in this race who's had $1 million court judgment against him for hiring illegal aliens. He's the only person in this race who right now is hiring hundreds of foreign workers instead of Americans. And on trade, he pretends to support American fair trade. Donald Trump, the ties he sells, the shirts he sells, the suits he sells are manufactured in Mexico and China. He doesn't intend to change it. We need instead a positive, optimistic campaign that stands with the working men and women of this country. That's what our campaign is about.
All right, so let the record show you have not taken a position on whether you can support Trump if he's the nominee. Fair enough?
And let the record show you tried very, very hard to get me to commit to supporting Trump. The record will show that.
Fair enough.
I've released my findings on the Panama Papers showing that Donald Trump owns multiple Panama corporations, and his tower is not far from Mossack Fonseca, the law firm that was infamously hacked to release the documents. George Soros's Open Society Foundation was largely behind the dissemination of the information and has control over the remaining 99.9% that hasn't been released to the public. It was no coincidence that the Panama Papers were released without bringing any financial harm to a single American, even when the most harm that could have been brought to America would have been to defame Donald Trump as the Republican frontrunner. That possibility was never explored by the mainstream media, not one time. I currently have the only report on the internet detailing Trump's Panama corporations. Trump is not the only candidate that is heavily involved in corruption. Hillary Clinton has become almost like an untouchable. Hillary is currently under investigation by several FBI agents and has been involved in scandals and corruption for the last 20 years. Benghazi, Libya, the deletion of emails, the selling of Oregon uranium resources to Russia, and much, much more seem to be all the things that have left the public's attention. The question is why?
Well, I think the caller brings up a lot of good points. I mean, first on the speaking fees, I think we all recognize ex-presidents are going to hit the lecture circuit, and I don't think we mind it at a certain level. With the Clintons, though, it's particularly troublesome because Bill Clinton's wife at the time is first a powerful U.S. senator, and second of all has become Secretary of State. And when you look at the pattern of the money that they are making from the speeches, it's very troubling. I mean, just consider one statistic. Bill Clinton has been paid 13 times, a total of 13 times his entire speaking career, $500,000 or more to give a speech. Of that 13 times, 11 of them occurred while his wife was Secretary of State. And some of them, it's just hard to not see them for what they are. For example, Bill Clinton had never given a paid speech in Nigeria when his wife was not Secretary of State. She becomes Secretary of State. A businessman in Nigeria who's very close to the Nigerian government, which is highly corrupt, contracts for him to give 2 speeches for $700,000. Now, as Secretary of State, one of the things that Hillary Clinton has to do is look at foreign aid recipients like the government of Nigeria, and if they have rampant corruption and they are not improving it, federal law says they are not to get aid. The only way they can continue to receive U.S. aid is if the Secretary of State grants them a waiver, which Hillary Clinton did. So, you know, again, you could look at one of these and say, well, maybe that's a coincidence, but you find that pattern repeated over and over and over again. As regards to the caller's question about the foundation, they give about 10% of their money to other charitable organizations. The Clinton Foundation model is incredibly unique. You look at the website and you see Bill Clinton and Chelsea and Hillary Clinton, you know, holding children in Africa or in Asia. But the Clinton Foundation really doesn't do a lot of hands-on work with people in those countries. They partner with other organizations that do. They function kind of as a middleman, as it were. And the world needs its middlemen, but it's not like Doctors Without Borders or American Red Cross or some of these other organizations that are actually doing the hands-on work. The Clinton Foundation is more like a management consulting firm working in the area of charity. And this is the reason why, for example, a Charity Navigator, which is well regarded as an evaluator of charities, you can look online, they won't even rate the Clinton Foundation because of what they call its unique business model. And they've also been dinged by the Better Business Bureau because they lack internal controls as it relates to finances and governance, et cetera. So, I mean, there's some real problems there.
Eugene's in Hickory, Kentucky. Please go ahead, Eugene.
Yeah, first of all, I'm not a Republican, a Democrat, a Libertarian. I'm an American, and I don't believe in being affiliated with a party. My question is, if you or I or any other average American were brought up or questioned by Congress and asked to give over information and we destroyed it, would we be walking the streets, or would we be behind bars? I mean, they give our Congress gives them 30 days. The way I see it, they gave them 30 days to destroy evidence, and that's exactly what they did. And if we did that, they'd come into our home. They wouldn't need.
All right, Eugene. I think we got the point. Peter Schweitzer.
Well, I mean, you're referring obviously to the emails and the servers, and I think it's a huge problem. I mean, remember, Hillary Clinton was on the Watergate committee as a junior lawyer, and there was, of course, those, 18 minutes, I think it was, that Richard Nixon erased. We're talking about 30,000 emails that have just vanished. On top of that, you have this additional problem, as I point out in the book, that Hillary Clinton, as a condition of becoming Secretary of State, this was something that President-elect Obama insisted on. They were required to disclose all the contributors every year to the the Clinton Foundation. Very basic requirements. Hillary Clinton promised the same thing in her testimony before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Bill Clinton went on CNN and said, "We will have complete transparency." Well, as we were researching this book and went through Canadian tax records, we found out that, lo and behold, that's not true, that there were undisclosed donors, including the chairman of this Russian-owned uranium company who gave $2 million. Those donations don't show up on the Clinton Foundation website. It's now been acknowledged that there are more than 1,100 donors that have been non-disclosed, and I think that we are going to find that there are more. So think about this for a second. The President-elect of the United States, Barack Obama, you signed a written, sworn agreement with him that you are going to share you're going to share all the contributor information that you have annually on a basis as a condition for you taking the job. And almost immediately, because some of these donations start flowing in early 2009, almost immediately you violate that agreement. I mean, that is shocking and really, to me, raises huge amounts of questions, and I think that's one of the reasons why you have such a high percentage of the American people in these recent surveys that say they don't trust her, they don't believe she's honest.
Back to the mainstream media and the billionaire class. They have a secret that they don't want you to know. Your education didn't stop at high school or college. The elite are educating, also known as brainwashing you, every day. Marketing is a science. I can't say that loud enough. Marketing is a science, and mastering the human domain is done through analyzing and mapping out how their control mechanisms are working on the public. This is not a game to those who are controlling the narrative. This is a well thought out media operation that ties into the government's and billionaire class's agenda to bring 100% globalism into reality. The government and billionaire class cannot take away our freedoms without our agreement and participation. What do we see happening around us right now? The government is starting to control all social agendas in America, and anyone that doesn't agree with the forced status quo is considered an outcast. Anyone that doesn't agree with the forced law changes is considered an extremist or bigot. The only way to assert and enforce this level of control is by massive media dissemination on a constant basis. The media is being used by the government and billionaire class to literally dictate social changes that are beneficial to their control and ruling while stripping us of our God-given constitutional freedoms and liberties. So there you have it. The billionaire class is working hand in hand with the front runner from each campaign. Donald Trump and George Soros have both given extensively to the Clinton campaign and other efforts several times. George Soros is good friends with the Clintons and the Trumps. George Soros is responsible for funding revolutions to overthrow governments. The liberal Democrat named Donald Trump was hand-selected by the billionaire class to run on their ticket. It is a fact that Trump does not share traditional conservative views with his voters. This watering down of views is the core of the disintegration of the Republican Party. Everyone knows the truth already. The establishment has picked Hillary. What's better than picking Hillary? Ensuring a second presidential term by destroying the core constitutional values of the Republican Party. After Trump's loss, the corporate Democratic Party will enforce their complete globalism agenda that they've created. We are knocking at death's door. These transitions are the beginning of our global enslavement. Vote for Bernie Sanders. Yeah, he believes in socialism. So do you. If you have a family member that is in the United States military like I was, then you too believe in socialism. Our military is one of the largest socialist programs that we have on the face of the planet. Unforced socialism is not a bad thing. Communism, which is an exploitation of socialism, is what we should be concerned about. Communism is what happens when a powerful group gains and maintains all levels of control over a nation. That is what has been happening in America for decades now. That is what must be stopped. Vote for Bernie Sanders. He's not beholden to any corporate corruption. He's the only candidate that refuses to take their money.